Spirit warriors that ever feel like life keeps throwing punches, like you're in a battle that never lets up. You're not imagining things. That relentless pressure, the constant spiritual warfare, the envy, the attacks, it's not because you're doing something wrong, it's because you carry something. In the unseen realm, you are not average. You're marked by God, and hell knows it. That's why darkness can't stop stalking you. It's not about your past mistakes, your flaws, or even your circumstances. It's about your calling, your anointing, your light. Demons don't get stirred by people going with the flow. They tremble at the ones swimming upstream, defying the culture, and walking in divine authority. Let's talk about Elijah, not the prophet, but a modern-day young man who could have been anybody. Faced rejection, heartbreak, and betrayal. People laughed at him, judged him, and even called him cursed. But what they didn't see was the battle he fought behind the scenes, the prayers he whispered when no one was looking, and the strength he built in silence. And when he didn't give in, that fire turned him into a warrior. Today, his presence shifts atmospheres, not because he's loud, but because he's anointed. That same power lives in you. Ephesians 6 reminds us that our battle isn't against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, and rulers of darkness. This means you're not just in a physical fight, you're in a spiritual one. And spirit warriors don't fight alone. You've got the armor of God, the authority of Christ, and the backing of heaven. That's why the enemy wants you tired, distracted, and doubtful. Because if you ever realize who you are, it's game over for the darkness. Smith Wigglesworth once said, "The devil knows when a man or woman has the Holy Ghost, and that's why he trembles." You walking in your purpose is spiritual warfare. You choosing peace instead of chaos, love instead of hate, and faith instead of fear, that's power. And if the enemy keeps targeting you, it's because you're a threat to his kingdom. So stand tall, chosen one. This isn't about ego, it's about knowing your divine identity. You're not just surviving, you're commanding. You're not just living, you're leading. And in this video, we'll unpack 7 traits that prove you're walking in boss-level spiritual authority. This is where your fire gets lit, your spirit gets fed, and your purpose fully activated. Point 1, your presence interrupts darkness. You don't have to say a word. The moment you step into a room, something shifts. The air gets heavier, eyes start darting, and conversations suddenly change direction. People straighten up or shrink back. You might think you're imagining it, but you're not. That's not paranoia, that's discernment. It's your spiritual radar picking up on what your natural eyes can't always see. You carry light, and light will always expose darkness. Not because you're trying to call anybody out, but because the truth just can't sit comfortably in the presence of authenticity. Your very being reflects a level of self-awareness and spiritual clarity that makes others take a hard look at themselves. And let's be honest, not everyone is ready for that. Some folks have spent years building walls, wearing masks, and hiding behind polished personas. So when someone like you walks in, real, raw, and radiant, it shakes their internal foundation. You're not trying to be intimidating, you're just being you. And that in itself is powerful. Science even backs this up. Studies in neuropsychology show that humans unconsciously respond to subtle emotional cues from others. This is part of what's called the limbic resonance, our ability to pick up on emotional and energetic frequencies without a single word being spoken. So yes, people really can feel your energy, and yes, it really can make them uneasy, especially if that energy is rooted in truth, confidence, and spiritual depth. Because when someone's been faking peace or living in deception, true peace and presence walk in and blow their cover. And while you may not be intentionally trying to trigger anyone, your presence alone does exactly that. It reminds people of everything they've tried to forget about themselves. The dreams they gave up on, the boundaries they never enforced, and the healing they've avoided. You're a walking mirror, and not everybody wants to look at their reflection, but here's the part that matters most. Don't you dare dim your light just to make others comfortable. That awkward energy, that's confirmation, not condemnation. You were never sent to blend in, you were born to interrupt. To disrupt stale atmospheres, to bring light to dark places, to expose lies with your truth. You're not just different, you're divinely placed. Some environments needed a shake-up, and that's exactly why you showed up. Let them act funny, let the vibe shift, let the room get quiet. That's just spiritual alignment taking place. Your assignment isn't to make everyone like you, it's to wake people up. And sometimes waking up is uncomfortable. Sometimes it comes with side eyes, gossip, or distance. But don't take it personally. You didn't walk into the room to gain their approval. You were sent in to raise the frequency. Remember what Jesus said in Matthew 5:14-16. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. You weren't created to be covered up. Your light has a purpose. It's meant to guide, to convict, and to empower, even when it makes others squirm. And here's a final thought. Not everyone who's uncomfortable around you is your enemy. Some are just in a different stage of their journey. Your presence might be planting seeds they'll later water. You might be the first example of realness they've seen in years. So keep being you. Walk boldly in rooms where others whisper, smile when they fidget, speak when led, stay silent when needed, but above all, keep shining. Because someone somewhere is watching you and saying, if they can walk in that kind of light, maybe I can too. And that right there is how your presence becomes a ministry. Point 2, you speak truth even when it's uncomfortable. Let's be honest, most people would rather keep the peace than speak the truth. They'd rather stay comfortable, blend in, and avoid confrontation. But not you, not the chosen ones. You were born with a fire in your mouth and a sword in your voice. Sugarcoating? That's not in your spiritual vocabulary. You speak what needs to be said, not what people want to hear. And yes, that makes some folks nervous. But here's the truth. The world has too many whispers and not enough truth tellers. That's why your presence is both healing and disruptive. Healing to those who are hungry for truth. Disruptive to those who live in deception. The devil doesn't fear loud people. He fears truthful people. That's a fact. Lies are the devil's playground. From the very beginning, deception has been his main tool. Just like in the Garden of Eden, he twisted words, distorted reality, and convinced humanity to question what was true. So when you, as a chosen one, step into a room and refuse to participate in the lies, when you call out hypocrisy, when you speak clarity into confusion, you shake the atmosphere. You're not just voicing an opinion, you're wielding spiritual authority. Every time you speak truth, it cuts, it pierces, it dismantles illusions. And not everyone can handle that kind of power. That's why people try to silence you. You've probably noticed it by now. The moment you start telling it like it is, genuinely, respectfully, but unapologetically, some folks shift. They look uncomfortable. They accuse you of being too intense, too blunt, too much. But deep down, it's not you they're afraid of. It's the mirror you hold up. When you walk in truth, you reveal what others try to hide. And when you won't back down, when you don't apologize for seeing clearly, it unnerves them because truth is confrontational by nature. It forces people to deal with what's real, not what's convenient. But don't let that intimidate you. Your voice is not a mistake, it's a mission. The word says in Proverbs 18:21, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Your voice carries life. Your declarations carry weight. There's a reason the enemy targets your mouth. If he can't stop you from speaking, he'll try to discredit you. If he can't discredit you, he'll try to discourage you. And if he can't discourage you, he'll try to isolate you. But none of those tactics can work if you stay rooted in your purpose. Science backs this up too. Studies in psychology show that people who speak up for what's right, despite opposition, are often more emotionally resilient and have higher self-esteem. They also tend to inspire others to be more courageous. That's exactly what chosen ones do. Your truth doesn't just set you free, it empowers others to break free too. You're the voice someone else is waiting to hear. The courage in your words gives them permission to stop pretending, to stop accepting half-truths, and to start living authentically. You weren't born to be silent. Silence is comfortable, but it's not your calling. Your spirit doesn't sit well with pretending everything is okay when it's not. You feel it in your gut when something's off. That's discernment. That's your divine radar. And once you've sensed a lie, you can't unsee it. You were born to declare, to speak life over dry places, to expose the schemes of darkness, and to remind people that truth still exists, and it's powerful. So the next time someone tries to dim your voice, remember this. Your truth is your weapon. It's your calling card. It's your legacy. The devil has a lot of tools, but none of them can withstand a spirit anchored in truth. Keep speaking, chosen one. Keep declaring, because when you do, chains break, darkness trembles, and the game of deception gets exposed, and they'll realize, too late, that you were never just talking, you were commanding change. Point 3, your pain made you untouchable. Every tear you've cried in silence, every betrayal that cut deep, and every loss that felt like it would shatter your soul, none of it was in vain. It may have felt like life was unfair, or like the universe had singled you out for suffering. But what if I told you that all of it, every agonizing moment, was raw material in the hands of God, being shaped into your unshakable strength? See, pain is not just something we endure, it's something that refines us. According to psychological research, individuals who have overcome significant adversity often develop what experts call post-traumatic growth. They emerge from hardship not just with scars, but with greater resilience, deeper empathy, stronger relationships, and a more profound appreciation for life. You're not broken, you're battle-tested. Let's be real. The enemy never wanted you to find your footing. Every betrayal wasn't just a coincidence, it was a calculated hit to your spirit. But here's the twist the enemy didn't see coming. You didn't fold. You didn't give up. You didn't let the heartbreak define you. Instead, you turned inward, wrestled with your pain, and came out the other side wiser, tougher, and more self-aware. You learned how to walk through the fire without getting burned, and now the flames don't scare you. And oh, how that rattles the enemy. The devil fears the soul who has stared into the abyss and didn't blink. He fears the one who felt worthless but chose to rise anyway. Because now you can't be manipulated by lies or shaken by circumstances. You've seen darkness and chosen light. You've faced loss and chosen gratitude. That kind of strength, it terrifies the forces that tried to keep you small. Spiritually, this isn't just poetic justice, it's divine strategy. In the Bible, Joseph was sold into slavery by his own brothers, lied on, thrown into prison, forgotten. But what happened? God elevated him to second in command in Egypt. When his brothers returned, fearful for their lives, Joseph said something powerful. What you meant for evil, God meant for good. That's not just Joseph's story, it's yours too. Your betrayals were classrooms, your losses were laboratories. Each tear was a seed, watered in sorrow, but destined to bloom in strength. And now that you've grown into your power, the people who tried to bury you are realizing they planted a force they can't stop. You don't need revenge. Your success is the response. You don't need to explain yourself. Your growth speaks volumes. Let them whisper. Let them wonder how you made it. Let them sit in the regret of underestimating you, because you've risen higher, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. And here's the best part. You're not just strong for yourself. You're now a lighthouse for others lost at sea. You're the proof that survival is possible, that healing is real, that purpose can rise from the ashes of pain. You're walking evidence that God doesn't waste anything, not even heartbreak. So stand tall, warrior. You're not defined by what you lost. You're defined by what you became in the fire. And now that you've been through hell and come out holding heaven's hand, you've become the very thing the enemy hoped you'd never be. Unshakable. And that's why the devil's afraid of you now. Point 4, you hear God clearly. In a world full of chaos, distractions, and non-stop noise, most people are tuned into the loudest voice, the media, opinions, trends, ego, fear. But then there's you. You're different. While the world is busy chasing applause, you're tuned into a quieter frequency, the whisper of heaven. And that right there is what makes you powerful. Because while others react, you respond. You don't move for attention, you move with intention. And more than anything, you move when God says move. That kind of obedience is confusing to the enemy. See, the enemy thrives in noise, in confusion, in misdirection. His tactics are smoke and mirrors, whispers of doubt, sudden detours, and shiny distractions. But when you're still enough to hear heaven and bold enough to follow it, it disrupts every trap set for you. You don't flinch when others panic. You don't chase validation when others crave approval. You operate under divine timing, and that terrifies darkness. Think about this. Throughout history, God has always used the quiet ones, the obedient ones, to carry out powerful missions. Moses wasn't a polished speaker, yet God used his obedience to lead nations. Esther didn't need to shout her way into power. Her courage to move in the right moment saved her people. Obedience has always been the superpower of those God chooses to elevate. It's not loud, but it's lightning in disguise. And let's get real. Obedience isn't glamorous. It means trusting when there's no applause, moving forward when you have no map, standing still when everything says run, and sometimes letting go of good things to make room for God things. But here's the twist. Every time you obey, heaven shifts things in your favor, and hell loses a bit more ground. It's not just spiritual, it's tactical. Scientific studies in psychology show that people who live with a strong sense of spiritual purpose tend to have greater resilience, better decision-making, and more consistent peace in stressful situations. That's because they're not reacting impulsively, they're anchored. When you're moving in sync with divine instruction, you're centered, not scattered. You're aligned, not confused. And in that alignment, there's power that no enemy strategy can decode. See, spirit warriors don't just talk to God. That's the easy part. Everyone can pray when they need something, but you listen. You quiet your flesh long enough to hear the divine nudge, the sacred instruction, the heavenly whisper that says, no, not yet, or now. And when you obey that whisper, even when it makes no sense in the natural, you unlock favor that makes people wonder how you keep winning. Your moves don't make sense to the crowd, but they make perfect sense to the kingdom. You're not trying to be seen, you're trying to be aligned. And let's be honest, nothing messes with people more than someone they can't predict or control. When people, and yes, even enemies, realize that your steps are ordered, they start to watch you differently. They thought you were playing checkers. Turns out you were listening to the one who sees the whole board. So don't let the noise of the world drown out your secret weapon, obedience. Keep praying, but keep listening. Stay humble, but stay sharp. Let others chase power. You carry presence. Let them mock your silence. They'll be shocked by your impact. Because spirit warriors don't need to announce their moves, they become the move. Remember this, obedience may not make you popular, but it will make you powerful. It won't always make sense to people, but it will always make sense to God. And that's all you need. So keep moving when he says move, even if it confuses the enemy, especially if it confuses the enemy. That's the mark of a true spirit warrior. You're not just praying for victory, you're walking in it. Point 5, you stay humble while walking in power. You know where your strength comes from, not from ego, not from applause, not from trying to outshine the next person. No, your strength flows from a deeper, divine wellspring, God. That's why when you move, it's different. There's a quiet power to your presence. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have to flex to prove you're strong. There's a grace in the way you carry yourself, and that's what makes you unforgettable. In a world obsessed with self-promotion and performance, people often mistake silence for weakness and humility for insecurity. But let's be clear, humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. It's the confidence to stand firm in your identity without needing external validation, and spiritually speaking, that's a rare kind of strength. The book of James says, God resists the proud but gives grace to the humble. That divine grace, that quiet empowerment, is what sets you apart. Ego tries to control, but God's power flows through surrender, and when you're connected to that source, you don't have to force things. Your timing is divine, your steps are ordered. People may not see you coming because you don't move loudly, but when you do move, everything shifts. That's the essence of real power, not making noise, but making an impact. Think about it. Thunder is loud, but it's the lightning that strikes. You don't waste energy trying to impress. Your actions speak for themselves. You're the one who walks into a room and makes people wonder, who is that? Without even saying a word. It's not intimidation, it's presence. It's not arrogance, it's awareness of the power that backs you. That's what makes you a spiritual heavyweight. Let's be honest. There's something deeply unsettling to the insecure when they encounter someone who isn't desperate for attention. They don't know what to do with you. They're used to people performing for their approval, scrambling for recognition. But you're anchored, and that unnerves them. They can't figure out why you're so calm in chaos. They can't grasp why doors open for you without manipulation. They don't understand why, despite their gossip, shade, or sabotage, you just keep rising. And here's what they really can't handle. You knew the whole time. Their schemes, their envy, the games they played, you saw it. But you didn't need to clap back. You didn't need revenge. You had God. And when you're backed by heaven, you don't fight battles the same way. You elevate, you level up, you let God be the vindicator, and trust me, he knows how to make a point better than anyone. It's a spiritual principle. The meek shall inherit the earth. Not the loudest, not the flashiest, the meek. That doesn't mean weak. It means controlled strength. It means having the fire but choosing not to burn everything down. You know you could retaliate. You know you could expose them, but you also know God sees all, and when God elevates someone, no man can block it. No lie, no rumor, and no jealousy can shut the doors that were divinely assigned to you. What's truly beautiful and powerful is that you don't carry resentment. You've learned that bitterness slows momentum. That's why your energy stays light, even when your past was heavy. That's why you're still glowing, still growing, still moving in purpose. You're not trying to prove anyone wrong. You're proving God right. People often ask, what's your secret? And you just smile. Because the truth is, your secret isn't a strategy. It's a source. It's not a technique. It's trust. Trust in God. Trust in your calling. Trust in the fact that what's for you cannot be stolen, faked, or manipulated away. That's the power of moving without ego, of letting your fruit speak louder than your voice. And when you walk like that, you don't have to chase blessings. Blessings chase you. So stay grounded, stay silent when needed, stay humble, because your strength isn't in your volume, it's in your vibration. And when God is the source, the power flows with ease, the favor follows with consistency, and the impact is undeniable. The world won't see you coming, but when you move, oh, they'll know. Point 6, you break generational curses. You're not just living for you, and that truth alone carries a divine weight. You may not see it every day, but every step you take in healing, growing, choosing differently, or breaking cycles is rewriting the narrative of generations past. The patterns stop with you. That anxiety you're battling, that shame you're shedding, that poverty mindset you're unlearning, all of it, it didn't start with you, but it's being broken through you. And that, my friend, is a spiritual revolution in motion. Let's get real. Generational trauma is not some vague, poetic idea. It's science and spirit working hand in hand. Studies in epigenetics, the science of how behavior and environment can affect the way your genes work, reveal that trauma can literally be passed down through DNA. That means fear, scarcity, addiction, abuse, and self-sabotage might not have started with you, but they've echoed through your bloodline, waiting for someone bold enough to confront them, and that someone is you. You're not crazy for feeling like you're carrying more than just your own burdens. You are. Now let's talk spirit. In many cultures and faith traditions, there's this deep understanding that bloodlines carry spiritual assignments. You are not just a random human on earth. You are here on divine assignment. Your obedience, your refusal to conform to toxicity, your silence when you could have cursed back, your discipline when giving up would have been easier, all of it is spiritual warfare. Heaven celebrates you, and yes, hell is threatened by you. Why? Because obedience is power. The devil doesn't fear loud prayers or fancy religious words. He fears the one who obeys God in silence, in pain, in obscurity. He fears the one who says, "Not in my house," and sets new standards for love, communication, self-worth, and truth. He fears the curse breaker. Because obedience breaks patterns faster than rebellion ever could. Every time you say no to what broke the ones before you, you're not just surviving. You're shaking spiritual realms. So when people misunderstand you, when your family doesn't get why you're changing everything, when they say, "Who do you think you are?" remember this. You're the one heaven has been waiting for. The enemy knows who you are even when others don't. That's why the attacks come so hard. That's why isolation hits so deep. You're not being punished. You're being positioned. Positioned to do what they couldn't, to forgive what they couldn't, to heal from what they ignored, to build what they didn't have the blueprint for. You're a system disruptor, a spiritual reformer, a legacy rewriter. You're building wealth where there was lack. You're nurturing love where there was abuse. You're choosing peace over chaos, truth over silence, and healing over pretending. That's powerful, that's rare, that's holy. So don't be discouraged if it feels heavy. Chains don't break quietly. And don't get distracted trying to prove yourself to people who haven't done a fraction of the work you're doing. You're not living for their applause. You're living for alignment. You're not here to make history repeat. You're here to make history new. Hell knows exactly who you are, and it's terrified. Because when a person decides that it ends with them, all of hell's generational plans fall apart. Your yes to growth, it echoes backwards and forwards in time. Your healing heals your lineage. Your discipline secures the next generation. Your faith rewrites what was once fate. You're not just living for you, you're living for them. For those who came before and never got the chance, and for those who come after and will never know the pain you protected them from. And that curse breaker is divine. Keep going. Point 7. You never fight alone. You may walk into a room alone, sit quietly at the back, or move through life without a loud entourage, but don't let the surface fool anyone. In the spirit realm, you are never alone. The devil knows this. That's why he trembles when you rise in the morning, not because of your physical size or social status, but because of who's walking with you. You've got the backing of heaven itself. The Holy Spirit resides in you. Angels are on assignment, surrounding you like an invisible royal guard. And when the enemy sees that, he panics. You're not just a believer, you're a threat. Scripture tells us in Romans 8:11, the Spirit of God who raised Jesus from the dead lives in you. That's not a poetic metaphor, it's spiritual reality. The very power that conquered death is dwelling in your body. That's why the devil works overtime to attack you with doubt, fear, anxiety, and confusion. It's not random, it's strategic. He sees the anointing even when you can't. He senses your purpose even when you're still figuring it out. And every time you choose to stand firm instead of fold, you're outnumbering him. Because heaven is on your side, spiritual warfare is real, and those who carry divine light often face the darkest resistance. But here's the catch. The devil wouldn't bother you if you weren't dangerous. Think about it. Thieves don't break into empty houses. You have value. You carry influence in the unseen world. Your prayers shake foundations. Your words carry weight. Your obedience activates angelic movement. That's why the attacks feel relentless, because every time the enemy thinks he's backed you into a corner, you rise again with grace, with power, with peace that makes no sense. And that kind of comeback story is terrifying to hell. You're not out here winging it. You're backed by the Most High. That means when you walk in authority. When you speak, your words echo in eternity. When you worship, you shift atmospheres. The devil's issue isn't just with you, it's with who's with you. You are a walking battle squad in disguise, and heaven has assigned resources to you that even you haven't fully discovered yet. So the next time the attack comes, smile. You're not alone. You're outnumbering the enemy every single time, and he knows it. Spirit warrior, the devil's fear isn't just of you, it's of the God in you. When you wake up, he trembles. When you pray, he panics. When you speak, he flees. Because you are chosen, anointed, and unstoppable. Never doubt your worth again. Don't question your power. You were built different because your purpose is divine. Keep walking, keep shining, and keep fighting. You're not just a warrior. You're the one hell's been warned about. And remember this, when hell sends attacks, it's only confirmation that you're walking in authority. Stay alert, stay armored, stay awake, because chosen one, you are a boss. And the devil knows it. Watch this again whenever you forget who you are. Your journey isn't over, it's only beginning.